Hello, 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 and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to another live Manchester United news, transfer news, takeover news, and general news show. We've got lots to talk about in today's show. We're going to speak about a player called Joao Neves, who's been confirmed as a Manchester United major transfer target. We're going to talk about him, the player he is, what he will add, the price tag, and more. I've done some analysis on him. There's more takeover news and developments coming in, more PR, more stories, pardon me, but also an interesting story coming out to suggest that Ten Hag is very frustrated with the result of the takeover. Ten Hag's annoyed, and apparently Ten Hag's been very critical of Manchester United's recruitment and more. We've got many interesting stories coming out, guys, so please do make sure you hit that like button and, of course, subscribe down below if you're new. We've got a few interesting updates on the takeover. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, according to Jamie Jackson, has big plans to shake things up at Manchester United, but Sir Jim Ratcliffe needs to be approved on Thursday. If he's not approved, there are reports that maybe the Qataris still have a chance if he's not approved on Thursday, but the feeling is that he will be approved on Thursday with big plans ahead. Now, I'm not really sure where to start in today's news show. I think there's quite a lot of things to talk about as well. I do want to talk about the player that we've been linked to. I do want to talk about the takeover news. I do want to talk about a bunch of stories. And look, I am ill. I try and make my live shows 45 to 50 minutes, 40 to 50 minutes, 45 minutes on average. It might be a half an hour live show. So I'll try and get straight to the news just because my throat is a bit like, Alice, we're giving up on you today. But I wanted to read this out quickly. Joao Neves, too much money. I would prefer Gabriel Mascherano from Brazil, way stronger, better on the ball, and has world-class potential and costs a lot less. Do you know what? I need to do research on this guy. Probably didn't pronounce his name right, but I've heard good things. So big up Danny B. I'm going to do some research on this guy because I've seen a lot of people talking about this guy as well, who in that maybe 40 million range, whereas Joao Neves could be very expensive because he's at Benfica. Benfica know they have some great talents. They know that they want to sell out their talents for more. Very good point there. I will do some research on those players because I've seen a lot of people and a lot of sort of clever people in the space who watch a lot of sort of South American football and stuff talking about these players, talking about these talents. So I will do some research on a lot of midfielders, but it was confirmed today by Sky Sports, Plettigo, multiple sources. It was said confirmed Joao Neves is a strong Manchester United target for the summer, not January. January, we're going to talk about the January window. Potentially, there's a chance for Todibo if things happen with Jim, but there's a few setbacks with Jim Ratcliffe's takeover that we will get into. There could be a few setbacks on that, but we will talk about obviously things happening in January. But potentially right wing options, Nusa, and of course, oh my God, Nico Williams. We will talk about that. We will talk about the takeover. We will talk about transfers. But one of the interesting stories I want to get into, and probably the first story I want to cover, is more about Ten Hag and actually Ten Hag being frustrated with the takeover and also frustrated with Manchester United's recruitment. I think, Ten Hag is someone that I don't want to change at Manchester United despite recent results, despite me having a bit of frustration with some of Ten Hag's tactics. He's not someone I want to change because I think, there's too many problems at United and the manager's, not in the top 10 problems at all. So I'm always like, you know what, stick with the manager, change the people above the manager before you change the manager again, because nothing's going to be successful again until those glazes are out. Unfortunately, full sale was up in the air, people. We want a full sale. We asked for a full sale. Do we get a full sale? That's the big question mark as well. There are some delays and some things that could potentially hold up the Ratcliffe deal or make it complicated. That has been revealed today. And if that does fall through, yeah, the Qataris could sweep in. But again, I've said I don't think that will happen. But let me share the first story with you guys, and then I will get into an interesting second and third story. But I want everyone to stop a second. Everyone, stop and hit that like button. Hit that like button if you're like me and you just want these owners gone. You just want a full sale, because you know what? We're going to go for 300 likes within the first 20 minutes of the live stream, which never happens, but we've got 250 people watching in the first 4 minutes. So 300 likes in the first 20 minutes. I don't ask for this much. You know what to do. And if you're watching and you're new, do subscribe, because I go live every evening around 6:15. I'm going to start doing midday live streams, maybe when there's actually more news going on, because there's no point in going live for the sake of it, and when I recover from COVID or whatever I've got at the moment. But yes, but let's talk about the news. So, so Ten Hag is reportedly frustrated. Now, there was actually something I read, I think it was on the OneFootball app, and I can't remember who it was from, and I should find it actually. I'll make sure I'll find it for at least my video tomorrow or tonight. So, essentially, I read something actually, it was really interesting. And that was basically saying that Ten Hag was actually frustrated with the result of the takeover. He's frustrated with the takeover process ongoing, and that apparently there was a feeling in the Manchester United squad, staff, coaches, dressing room that Sheikh Yassin would have been better. And reportedly, Ten Hag was more in favour of the Qatari takeover because he knows essentially Sir Jim doesn't guarantee him signings. He doesn't guarantee him the investment he wants for the squad going on. But that story was interesting, but a more interesting story that's come out today was from Matt Hughes. Now, Matt Hughes from the Daily Mail has basically written this big article on, I call it the Sir Jim Ratcliffe PR article. It's loads and loads of Sir Jim Ratcliffe PR articles and stuff. But one of the interesting things he spoke about in his article was Ten Hag's frustration with United's recruitment, the structure of United, and it was more a PR article of, guess what, the 59th article someone has written about Sir Jim Ratcliffe changing the structure of United, that United are so clearly briefing to the press to write out, because every single person in the media, every single person in the press that Manchester United brief are writing this same story literally over and over again. Every single person in the media and the press that we brief are writing the same takeover story about Sir Jim Ratcliffe changing the structure, Paul Mitchell, Sir Jim Ratcliffe changing the structure. It's so obvious it is United PR. It's so obvious. It's the, United have basically briefed all their media to make sure they're right, that Sir Jim's changing the structure, and Murta might go, and Arnold might go, and this person might go, and that person might go. And while this is probably report number 69 in about 3 days talking about the changes of structure, it has spoke about how Ten Hag doesn't like the structure and how that's potentially going to change on the Ratcliffe. So we're going to get into this article, which is a big let me lick Ratcliffe's bum article, but let's do it. So one of the interesting things it said, and the main bit from the article was, Erik ten Hag was showing signs of frustration at Manchester United's recruitment during his 18 months in charge, with a lack of clarity over targets, budgets, limited data, and habit of overpaying for players, particularly the cause of concern for many at the club. AKA, the recruitment at Manchester United is an absolute joke. Do you know why the recruitment at Manchester United is an absolute joke? Because no other Premier League club is in a situation where they tell their manager 3 major signings a summer. 3 major signings a summer, then we'll do loans, then we'll do someone on the cheap. You can maybe get a 4th major signing if you sell someone. So Ten Hag's thinking, Højlund, Mount didn't need to be a major signing, probably not. Højlund, Mount, and Onana were his 3 major signings. Amrabat was a loan, by the way. Reguilon was a loan, by the way. Højlund, Mount, and Onana was 3 major signings. He wanted a centre-back. Kim Min-jae's there. 40 million release clause. Kim Min-jae. Perfecto. No, you can only have 3 major signings. You're going to have to sell to buy Kim Min-jae. That's the rule in the United recruitment department. You're going to have to pay to get Kim Min-jae. That is our club. So Ten Hag's thinking, have you not seen that we need a centre-back? Have you not seen Maguire? Have you not seen that Martinez is a walking injury? Have you not seen that Rafael Varane can play 6 games and he's out for 6 games, and can play 6 games and he's out for 6 games? Ten Hag goes to the board. Kim Min-jae's 40 million release clause. Surely we can do 4 major signings, because this 40 million release clause is such a bargain on Kim Min-jae. United go, FFP, we can't, FFP, we're so broke. But FFP doesn't seem to affect any other club in the league, but, we're going to make sure we brief all our journalists about FFP, so United get there. And they're briefing every single one of their journalists. Remember, remind everybody, FFP we can't spend, FFP we can't spend. So you know how we've got 100 stories coming out about Paul Mitchell? 100 stories coming out about Ratcliffe changing the structure. Brilliant, good. But it's from the same journalists who are putting this story rinse and repeat. Same people who are going FFP, rinse and repeat, sell to buy, rinse and repeat. The Chelsea who spend ridiculous amounts do briefings about FFP and why they can't bring Poch's target. Did Arsenal talk about FFP? Did City talk about FFP? No, only FFP applies to United. So Ten Hag's got this frustration because he's thinking, I'm only allowed 3 major signings this summer. I seem to play for the only team in the world that seems to think FFP is the most important thing ever. For some reason, this recruitment team can't settle, and they have no idea who to buy. Ten Hag is the one who's sitting here picking out the transfer targets at the end of the day. That is what Ten Hag's doing, and I think that's particularly interesting, and I think that's a particularly key point to mention. Ten Hag was there at Manchester United, basically choosing our transfers. Reportedly, the Amrabat transfer was pretty much all Ten Hag. The board, the recruitment team, they do not rate Amrabat. The reason we didn't get Amrabat was because they didn't want to get Amrabat. And a lot of people don't know this. And I'm gonna speak to you because I spoke to someone about this. I spoke to a good source about this. And I spoke to someone. I think this is an interesting story that no one has said. And I'm not gonna make stuff up. I spoke to someone. Okay. And they basically said to me that Ten Hag really wanted Amrabat. Ten Hag made his intentions to get Amrabat clear very early on. We actually went for Amrabat in the January window. We inquired about him on loan, but we weren't able to get him on loan. Now, the recruitment team, the board, the people above Ten Hag at United didn't want Amrabat. They decided we're not getting Amrabat. So even though Ten Hag said, look, I want this Amrabat guy, he is a bargain, they kind of mutually decided, now we're not going to get Amrabat. We don't rate him. We've got him Hoyland, we've got him Mount, we've got him Nana. That's his 3 major signings. They basically planned not to get Amrabat. The reason Amrabat was left to the end of the window is because basically those at United didn't rate Amrabat, and they actually planned not to sign him at all. The only reason they thought about signing him was because, one, he'd actually denied everyone for United, and Fiorentina were like, okay, we'll make him available on loan, which United weren't expecting. United were thinking he'll do a Gakpo and end up going to Liverpool. United, deep down, wanted that to happen. Those above Ten Hag didn't have to spend money. I'm not lying. Someone said that to me. They actually almost wanted him to do a Gakpo, which I think is embarrassing, because surely why would you want your manager's transfer target to go to your rivals just so you don't have to spend money? It's absolutely craziness. But United was shocked. But the other reason is United were poor. They were crying out for a midfielder. Casemiro was very, very iffy. And United were like, okay then. It looks like we're going to have to spend some money. So essentially, that's what Manchester United did. They thought, okay, we're going to have to spend the money now. And they got Amrabat because they could get him on loan. But United's plan was to not get Amrabat. I'm going to say that now. And this is probably one of the reasons Ten Hag is frustrated and annoyed with United's recruitment, because they didn't have really any intention of signing Amrabat. They didn't have any intention of signing this player, of signing that player. They had not slightest intention. And I think that is one of the reasons for Ten Hag's frustration with the recruitment. I think the fact that we don't find these hidden gems, I think the fact that we tell Ten Hag he can only sign a certain amount of players here and a certain amount of players there. I actually completely understand why Ten Hag is frustrated with the recruitment, because you know what? It's not good enough. It's slow. We can't sell. We can't buy. We're not finding the hidden gems. They don't understand Ten Hag's style of play. They don't understand the way that Ten Hag wants to play. They don't understand his connection. He wants to link the youth with the first team by replicating a style of play. Those within United, they just completely shut out Ten Hag. And it was said that Ten Hag's mostly annoyed, though, with the lack of clarity over targets and budgets. Apparently, Ten Hag in the summer was told his budget was this amount, then it was that amount, then it was this amount. It's like United basically pretended they had about 100 million less than they actually had, and they would just sort of change his budget here and there, but they never actually gave him an exact budget. They just said 3 players in this range, too expensive, too cheap, we'll see what we can do. And it's just like, we run like an absolute circus. When you look at Manchester United, when you look at this club, when you look at the way we operate, it is honestly just an absolute circus from top to bottom. And all honesty, absolute circus. One sec, people, do smash that like button. And of course, subscribe down below if you're new. If you do want to stay up to date with all the latest Manchester United news, transfer news, updates, and more, make sure you subscribe, because I do want to get into this full story by Matt Hughes, which is, again, as I said, a bit of a Ratcliffe story, a bit of a Ratcliffe PR story. But it was said that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's plans to complete a radical overhaul of Manchester United's football department are set to be welcomed by Erik ten Hag as part of his desire to raise standards at the club. So it was said, although Erik ten Hag is annoyed and frustrated with the board and stuff, obviously Jim Ratcliffe has this big plan to overhaul this department and, change the recruitment team and do this and do that for Erik ten Hag. Basically, the whole Sir Jim Ratcliffe PR story. Do you know what I mean? So it talks about how Erik ten Hag's annoyed with the recruitment at the team. He thinks it's poor. And then it's making out that Sir Jim Ratcliffe's going to come out and fix it. And I just think it's such PR. It's such PR. But I'm going to read out the story quickly, and then we're going to discuss it as well. What's said here? It's been reported that Sir Jim Ratcliffe is actually taking 25% of the Glazers' shares and 25% of the market shares, so the deal would make sense if the market shares had any voting right. I don't know if that story is true, though. I think, it wasn't coming from the most credible people as far as I'm aware, but I will do research into that. What I will say on Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid is there's a lot of false information coming out, like Ratcliffe wants 50% and this and that, and there's a lot of false information coming out on this whole Ratcliffe situation, and you've got to sort of look at it and you've got to go, his meeting is Thursday. So all the information we're getting coming out now is United fed PR to the media, because Jim Ratcliffe's official blah, 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 whatever you're going to call it, isn't until Thursday. Friday morning is when we'll start to get real information. Okay, so how much is Jim Ratcliffe going to buy? He's going to get 25% up front. Is he going to own more than 25%? Is he going to do this? Is he going to do that? We'll start to get indications on Friday. What's going to happen with the debt? What's going to be paid off? Because we're not getting any real answers. There's a few stories going, oh, Jim's going to buy 50%. Well, he's not. We know that's not the case. He's going to have 25%. There's rumours of him doing 50%, but I'm not sure. He's going to essentially be a minority shareholder, because the Glazers wouldn't sell to him if he was going to come in right away and buy 50%, because that way the Glazers would he would have equal power. They don't want that. The Glazers still want to be the majority power figure at United. Otherwise, they would have gone with Qatar. So there's so many question marks around Sir Jim's bid. But the thing is, it's not been approved yet. It should be approved Thursday. If it's not approved, potentially the Qataris come back in. But there's going to be delays. It's going to be complicated. He's got to pass an ownership test. It said it's going to be at least 2 months until Sir Jim Ratcliffe can enforce any kind of change if he's successful in his ownership test and his board meeting. But the question is, we're not going to know how much is he going to own. We know it's going to be 25% for 1.3 billion. Potentially he's going to buy this share and that share. Apparently he's only going for the top 3 shares, not all the Class B shares. There's always a load of question marks about what he's going to do, how much is he going to own, and I think that's all going to probably be answered, I'd say, on Friday morning. All that interesting information as well. Alice, sometimes I feel like Ten Hag gets bullied. Ten Hag's just working with bosses that will happily hang him out to dry just to save their own self, to save their image, to save their PR. They would throw Ten Hag under the bus in a heartbeat. That is the people that Ten Hag works with as well. Jim wants 50%, wouldn't make a difference with United debt. And also, how's Sir Jim going to afford 50%? He's borrowing the money from, is it JP Morgan, all these loans. You've got to think about, so what's the structure of Sir Jim buying 50%? Where does this go? Where does that go? Where did the loans go as well? There's so many questions about it as well. The potential debts are very concerning. I'd expect everything Jim invests will be borrowed last minute. The last thing we need is more debt. And that's what is particularly worrying. But let's dive into the story, okay? I want to read out the story, and then I'm going to get into the transfer news, tell you about Joao Neves, and then I'm going to get into a little bit of a story on Qatar. Qatar PR, I've said a few things. So obviously, we spoke about the story. So Matt Hughes said this. He did quite a long article, and he said, sources at Ineos have indicated that Erik ten Hag will be retained despite Manchester United's poor start to the season, with new investors viewing an extensive injury list as a major mitigating factor. So it's confirmed, whatever happens with Ineos, Ten Hag is staying. Ten Hag is here for the long run, because look, we've had massive injuries. He was good last season. There's no point in coming in and changing the manager when, to be honest, there's so much above the manager that needs to be changed. Makes sense that Ineos are doing that. Makes sense that Ratcliffe will do that. It was said by Matt Hughes, it is not clear whether Ten Hag has spoken to Ratcliffe or received any reassurances over his futures due to strict rules governing the takeover process, but sources at Ineos have indicated that the manager will be retained despite Man United's poor start to the season, with new investors viewing the extensive injury list as a reason for it. Again, repeating it, it said that Ten Hag's not in any indication or conversations with Ratcliffe because of NDAs and all of that. He's not allowed to, but it said that Ratcliffe it rates Ten Hag really highly. Now, the interesting thing is, they said while there's been no contact in recent months between Ten Hag and Ratcliffe, Ten Hag's obviously not had any contact with Ratcliffe or Sheikh Yassim. Apparently, Ten Hag has a pre-existing relationship with Ratcliffe due to the latter's ownership at Nice, because they bump into each other. I've bumped into each other at United's Carrington grounds. I think I spoke about this in my video earlier. What an absolute joke. What an absolute joke that story was. I'm sorry. Maybe this is me being harsh. Maybe this is me being rude. But I read that and I just think, what a joke. What a joke. They're saying, oh, by the way, guys, Ten Hag bumped into Ratcliffe when he was looking round Carrington, so they're buddies now. Really? Really? Yeah, I'm sure they're buddies. But it also spoke about that and Ten Hag and Ratcliffe being buddies, and basically what I call a load of BS. Anyway, continuing on, this was the interesting thing. It said Ten Hag was initially given a figure of 60 million by the Glazer family, which was accounted for by signing Mason's amount of 55 million in July. But United ended up spending 180 million on new players. So this article that's been talking about Sir Jim, how Sir Jim is going to make Manchester United great again, how Sir Jim is going to do this, how Sir Jim is going to do that. that this whole article going in on Sir Jim apparently says that Ten Hag was only allowed 60 million. He spent it all on Mount. So the Glazers thought, you know what, we'll give you 180 million. Absolutely do one. Absolutely do one. I don't know why journalists suck up to the Glazers and write what the Glazers want them to write. It was then said that Manchester United are confident that their recruitment setup has improved in recent years since the appointment of football director John Murtough, who has developed a close working relationship with Ten Hag over 18 months. It was then said in this report that United believe that their recruitment has massively improved despite Ten Hag's appointment because John Murtough has essentially been brilliant. So this report goes on about Ratcliffe, how he's going to change the recruitment, and then speaks about how nice the Glazers were for giving Ten Hag 180 million to spend and not 60, and how Ten Hag essentially wasted his money on Mason Mount. And then they speak about how United believe that their recruitment team is much improved, how Murtaugh's made them much improved. Murtough and Arnold, big improvement on Ed Woodward and Matt Judge. But anyone's an improvement on Ed Woodward and Matt Judge. You know, I think it's embarrassing that I'm reading stories talking about how Man United are so proud of the work Arnold and Murtough have done. What have Arnold and Murtough won? Where's our Champions League? Where's our Premier League? We could talk about Arnold and Murtough being great when we've got that Champions League trophy, when we've got that Premier League trophy. But for now, we're just putting out briefs that, despite Ten Hag's frustration, United are really happy with their recruitment team. United think their recruitment team's great this. United think their recruitment team's great that. It's not. At the end of the day, our recruitment team has not been good enough, and that is fact as well. It's crazy as well. How often would Eric Ten Hag run into OG Nice's owners previously? Sounds like BS. Exactly. And I think this story from Matt Hughes, and this isn't me going on Matt Hughes, he's obviously been briefed by the club, but I think this story was, honestly, when I read it, I thought this is the biggest load of rubbish I've ever read. It's speaking about Ten Hag being buddies with Sir Jim because they bumped into each other. Why would Ten Hag be bumping into the Nice owner? It's talking about how John Murtough and Arnold have been brilliant for United. It's talking about how the Glazers were so kind to give Ten Hag 180 million. And it's talking about how Sir Jim Ratcliffe is going to give Ten Hag his wish to improve the recruitment and the changes. So you talk about how Ten Hag doesn't like the recruitment and Sir Jim's going to change that. And then later on, you speak about how United feel that Arnold and Murtough have done this brilliant job. And I just think the PR at United is on full blow. And do you know why? Because they know fans are frustrated. They know fans are annoyed. They know all of this is going on. There's a lot of frustration with fans. There's a lot of fans annoyed. There's a lot of stuff going on inside the club. There's protests being planned ahead of, obviously, the next game. And United are like, oh no, they're planning a protest, they're planning this, they're planning that. What are we gonna do? Essentially, United are panicking. So United are putting out, PR story here, PR story there. It's just, I read it and I actually just think it's funny at the moment, to be honest. I really do as well. Eric Ten Hag was beating Juventus and Real Madrid with Ajax. Now he needs miracles to beat Brentford at Old Trafford. Man has walked into a bear trap. I mean, look, the Man United rebuild was always going to be difficult, but the reason I won't also turn and judge Ten Hag too hardly is I look at what Ten Hag did in his opening year at United. He went into a United side that and a lot of people forget to mention this, but the United side that Ten Hag took over, do you not remember how bad we were under Rangnick and Ollie? We basically scraped sixth place because I think West Ham or Brighton bottled a game. I can't remember what it was. And we were awful. We were the worst we've ever been. We're conceding the worst goals ever. And Ten Hag took that team, got them to finish third, got them to win a trophy. And unfortunately, we look a bit like the same team we did under Rangnick now. But we've seen that Ten Hag has turned it around, and he's more than capable of turning it around again. Because yes, we played good for 20 minutes under Rangnick, and then we were crap and we gave up. And that seems to be happening under Ten Hag. But we saw Ten Hag take that, awful Rangnick side, who were awful, the attitude problems, the mentality of the squad was embarrassing, and actually, got that team to go and finish third, got that team to win a trophy. And I think, Ten Hag is more than capable of turning around this sort of mess going on at United. Absolutely. I really do rate Ten Hag highly, and I'm really willing to be patient with him, and hopefully he does get some backing. Hopefully, whoever the new owner is, Jim Ratcliffe or not, is good to him as well. People say Sir Jim means more debt. Probably. If Mert is brilliant, why did he reject 30 million for Scott McTominay to West Ham? Yeah, and what if Paul Mitchell wanting certain players and Sir Jim says yes, but Glazers say no? There's a non-win there. This is the thing, I think Paul Mitchell's great, but like at United, he's not going to be given Do you think Paul Mitchell will want to buy this player and the Glazers will go, yes? You know, Paul Mitchell can be a good sporting director, but under the Glazers, if the Glazers are still here, if the Glazers still have a say, it's just like, well, what can Paul Mitchell do? And the Glazers still here. Big up Saeed in the chat. Go check out Saeed's channel, guys. Great YouTuber as well. Our summer business was a huge contributor to our dip. Signings were late and execs got priorities all wrong. And you know what? Exactly. United have done this big PR report about Murta this, Murta that, and all of that. But cool, Murta and Arnold, improvement on Woodward. But anyone's an improvement on Woodward. But Alex is right. Like, when you look at our summer signings, I like Mason Mount. I think Mason Mount's a decent player. But did United need to sign Mason Mount? Did Mason Mount need to be United's first signing? Should Mason Mount have been Manchester United's first signing? Probably not. Like, did we need Mason Mount? Does he work in that midfield with Bruno? Was Mason Mount the midfielder that we were crying out for? Absolutely not. We needed a midfielder that could retain the ball, that could break the lines, that could progress and carry the ball. We needed Frankie de Jong. We needed Enzo Fernandez. We needed a Moises Caicedo, Barella kind of player. I mean, Frankie de Jong's the dream. I know those players weren't realistic, but that was the profile of player we needed. And we went for Mason Mount, who's more of a Bruno player. And I like Mason Mount. I think he's a good player. I think he's been good in the recent games. But can he play in the midfield with Bruno? Because when him and Bruno play together, it looks like they're trying to occupy the same space, do the same things. It's not helping Casemiro, who's not been great. I look at United and I think, I like Mason Mount. I'm going to be nice to him. I'm going to give him time. He's signed. He's here. We'll have to see what happens. But one, did we need to sign Mason Mount? Was he really the profile we needed? Probably not. That's the first thing I think of. You know, two, we got Højlund in the end, but he came injured, so we couldn't play for a bit. We got Amrabat last minute, came injured, so we couldn't play for a bit. And Nana's the only signing that's actually not been injured and we've been able to play in it. And unfortunately, he's just not hit the ground running. Now, I've always said I prefer Diogo Costa, but I said, you know, we needed to get rid of the header. We needed to get a Nana. But you do look at the signings and you think, well, the only signing that's really been used is a Nana, and he hasn't been great yet. Højlund's had injuries. He's slowly coming in. Amrabat's had injuries. He's slowly returning. Mount's had injuries. He's showing glimpses. But there's all those factors as well. And you look at the board, they didn't quite sign the right kind of players. They didn't quite go for areas like Kim Min-jae that needed to be addressed, because let's be honest, we've been awful defensively and the amount of goals we're leaking is costing us a lot. If Kim Min-jae's there, I don't think we leak as many goals. Obviously, Harry Kane was Ten Hag's dream. We didn't get him, fair enough price tag, but it's all those things like it's like we so slow to sign players and then we miss out so many key positions, and it's just so frustrating in all honesty. And I think, you know, you have to look at the board, you have to look at the execs, you have to look at the people at Man United and go, yeah, you are partly to blame for this poor season. You know, yes, Ten Hag needs to change some things. Yes, the players need to be less lazy, and the athleticism of the squad, that might be down to the coaches why we seem so unfit. But actually, the delays, the transfer strategy, you know, as Adam said, 90 million on Mason Mount, not 90 million on Mason Mount, 90 million on Anthony. Like, I was open to us signing Anthony when he was 50 million. But United, and this again goes down to our board and our ownership, Anthony would have cost us between 40 to 50 million pounds had we signed him in June. It was that we knew since May when we were going to get Ten Hag, he wanted Anthony. We knew since May or even April, probably end of April, we knew that Ten Hag was coming to United and he wanted to bring Anthony. And we'd known that for months, that Ten Hag was coming to United, he wanted to get Anthony. So we could have gone for 45, 50 million. We didn't get him. We faffed about. We then lost the opening 2 games of the season. They went in panic mode. They thought, okay, we'll go buy Anthony now. So we ended up spending, I think, 83 million pounds on Anthony, double what we would have been able to get him for earlier in the season. And I think, look, I liked Anthony. I liked the look of him at Ajax. He looked like a good player. But even back then, I was like, there's no way I'm spending more than 50 million on this guy. You know, and also I think with Anthony, he can get better at United. I think if we play a more possession-based football when he has the players around him, he's definitely someone that can get better at United. But he's been pony. Like, let's be honest. And you look at it and you think, 90 million on Anthony, you know, and then buying Mason Mount. The strategy of the people around Ten Hag has been absolutely dreadful as well. Jim is taking a massive risk with the debt to buy the club in the belief that the interest will be eaten up by inflation, thereby costing him a lot less in the long run, massively speculative. You know what? I've always said this. This is why I'm so surprised that Jim Ratcliffe offered 25%. I always said, you know, I'm confident the Glazers will sell. I look at the situation. The Glazers are going to have to sell. I feel like the sale will happen. I've always said that. And the reason I've always said that is because it's never made any sense for someone to offer 25%. I guess unless they're 100% certain they're going to get the full club, But to get a full club, he's going to have to wait and pay massively overvalue. Like, I don't think Jim Ratcliffe's deal makes any sense to him. It only benefits the Glazers' pockets, which is why I'm so surprised that he changed his deal and it went through. And this is why I'm interested for Friday morning, when I think we'll get a lot more news post that board meeting, because still to this day, I don't see my point and the reason behind this Sir Jim Ratcliffe deal as well. We're on 163 likes, people, so keep smashing the like button. Let's go for 300 likes. Do hit that like button if you haven't already. Mount wasn't the right profile. Replacing David De Gea could have happened in 24. That's nearly 100 million quid not used. True. I think, United right now, we need a number 8 because Mount isn't the right profile to partner Bruno. We need a long-term replacement for Casemiro. We need 2 centre-backs because of injuries, Varane's ageing. We arguably need a right winger. I know a lot of people speak about Ahmed and Pellistri and Anthony, and we have a lot of options, but Sancho going, we arguably need at least a versatile water right winger. And we probably need another striker because we still need someone to challenge Højlund, because I don't see Martial as an actual contender really to challenge Rasmus Højlund that much, because I think Martial, he's had injury problems. He's not quite as quick as he is. But I tell you what, I would like to see Martial and Højlund play together. Unpopular opinion of mine, but I would as well. Qatar could sue Man United and Rain Group because of the NDA agreement. I don't think they can. Look, this is what happens with Qatar. The Ratcliffe deal is going to be complicated. We've got news, we've got information coming in saying that this Ratcliffe deal is going to be complicated to sort. It might not be done for a number of months. There's a lot of things that need to be hashed out. It still could be a while before Ratcliffe's in charge. We get these reports about Paul Mitchell. We get these reports about this. We get these reports about that. But actually, it could be a while before the Ratcliffe deal goes through. It's got to be approved. There's got to be a lot of things approved. It's a complicated deal with a complicated structure. Because of that, there is still hope for Qatar. If Ratcliffe's deal falls through, which there is a chance of, I think it's unlikely, but because it's such a complicated deal to do, so many people have got to approve of certain things. And, the Glazers have got to agree to things that Ratcliffe wants to do. I don't think Ratcliffe's stupid enough to say, I'm going to give you 25% and you're going to have full control. There's so much things that need to be answered that I assume will be answered in this board meeting on Thursday about Ratcliffe's deal. However, because of the complicated nature of Ratcliffe's deal, he's got to pass the Premier League ownership test and all of that. The Qataris have pulled out, but if Ratcliffe's deal does pull through, I think there's a chance for the Qataris to come back in. There's a chance for Qatari to swoop and buy the club, but I think it's incredibly unlikely. I think there's going to be delays. I don't think, Ratcliffe's takeover is going to be as instant as it's being made out. There's already talk about, okay, John Murtaugh's getting sacked in a few days. There's already talk about John Murtaugh getting sacked. There's already talk about this player getting sacked, this guy getting sacked. I think it's too instant. I think it's because it's and I'll be honest, I think it's PR. I think, okay, Ratcliffe's been appointed. Let's say we're getting Paul Mitchell and sacking John Murtaugh when I don't think anyone knows anything. I think that's instant PR because it's still going to be months and months and months before Ratcliffe's able to take the reins, have a say, have some power in the whole situation coming out as well. Martial out one way or another, needs proper competition, such rotation for Rasmus. Yeah, I agree. I like Martial, but he needs to be on the way out. Guys, we're so close to 200 likes, so please do hit that like button if you haven't already. And of course, subscribe down below if you're new as well. I thought Jim owns 25% now. It's not done. I mean, it's essentially done because Qatar have pulled out the race. It feels like it's essentially done because the Qataris have pulled out the race, this and that. But the takeover is nowhere near done. People don't realise that. Okay, yes, they've pulled out the race. Yes, the Qataris have pulled out the race. And yes, Sir Jim is very close to an agreement. But Sir Jim doesn't have an official agreement. Sir Jim doesn't own 25% yet. So Jim's got to have a board meeting to approve this. So it's not done. It probably will be done unless something massive went wrong. It's very unlikely if something go wrong. But there's still quite a lot to do on Sir Jim Ratcliffe's side. I feel like a lot of people forget as well. Saeed says, being a Boyhood United fan, I don't want Ratcliffe or the Glazers in this club. Jim Ratcliffe has already destroyed, and now it's time for Man U, I guess. Look, for me, I wanted a full sale. For me, I've said this 100 times. It wasn't about Qatar, but it was about the full sale. And Qatari were the only people who were coming in and offering a full sale. It's about getting the Glazers gone. It's about getting our owners gone. And that's what this whole takeover process and everything has been about. It's been about full sale. We want our club back. We want our Manchester United back. We want a full sale. Unfortunately, we've not been getting a full sale. Unfortunately, our owners are selfish. They've done this for their own gain. I think that actually this whole time they've probably used us and played with our emotions and played with Qatar to get someone to give them the money to stay longer. The Glazers have ruined this club so badly. The Glazers have run this club so badly that we're actually in a position, because of how bad the Glazers have run this club, we've actually been in a position where we needed to sell. we've been in a position where we needed, and they were kind of desperate to sell or raise some funds because of how badly they've raised the club. The stadium needed updoing, the debt was massive, and they've known that for 3-4 years. So they've been looking for minority investors for 3-4 years, couldn't find minority investors for 3-4 years. So the Glazers are like, okay, well, we can't find minority investors. We can't do this. We can't do that. We're going to put up the club for sale publicly, draw in some big bidders, but that can also draw in some minority investors. Play around, hold out, delay it. They do get the minority investment that they want. And unfortunately, that's no full sale. And the most important thing for me was always a full sale, but that doesn't seem to be what we're getting as well. The board is 70% actual Glazers, the rest are Glazer puppets. They want will go through. Yeah, true. Alice, are you doing a watch along for England versus Italy? When is England versus Italy? Is that 8 o'clock or 7:45? I don't really do watch alongs to international games because I don't really watch them. Maybe on my second channel I'll start doing watch alongs for other games, but I'm not a big watch along person, to be honest, because sometimes when I watch the game, I feel like I don't speak a lot when I watch a game. I kind of think about it in my head, and then when I'm live I've got to talk about it. But if it's United, I can always waffle and all of that as well. People are saying I'm absolutely done with United as well. Ben Jacobs and Stretford Paddock, he said there's at least a option to purchase the rest of the club at a later date. That's the most important thing with the Jim Ratcliffe bid, is there should be an option for the rest of the club to be purchased at a later date, which is particularly important to me. Now, guys, I've got a really interesting story I want to get into. There's been a few interesting stories coming out, and there's a big story obviously coming out today about Paul Mitchell and that again, but I have to say there's some interesting stories coming out about Sir Jim and his plans, but I don't really want to give it more attention because it's just rinse and repeat PR, Man United PR machine, all of that stuff. But there is some interesting news coming out that I do want to dive into, and this is about a player called Joao Neves, a player that we've been linked to massively, a player that now Sky have linked us to, good sources in Germany have linked us to, sources in Portugal have linked us to. United have been repetitively linked to Joao Neves, so we're going to speak about Joao Neves, who he is, what kind of player he is, and why he'll be particularly good for United. Before I do that, please do hit that like button. Let's see if we can hit the 300 like target. We've got over 400 people watching. Can we hit that like target? So it was said, breaking, Joao Neves is a 19-year-old and is a potential transfer target for Manchester United in the summer. Confirmed. Neves has been on United's list for a long time. So it was said Joao Neves is a potential transfer target for Manchester United in the summer. Confirmed, and Neves has been on United's transfer list for a very, very long time. So it's confirmed he's a transfer target. Now, who is Joao Neves? What are the chances of this? What are the response? What is this? So if you don't know the context, we've been linked to Joao Neves for a while. We've been linked to him since the summer. We inquired about him in the summer, but obviously United had no intention of spending any real kind of money in the summer because that is the way that we operate. He's a 19-year-old, almost seen as the long-term Bruno replacement, even though he's more of an 8 than a 10. But with the boxes he ticks, with the potential he has, he could be brilliant. And I think he is a good player, and he's been fantastic for Benfica. And I'm happy with him. But the interesting thing about this story is, from people I'd spoken to, United have been looking at more of a physical number 8 and a nada of a number 8 from Everton. This guy isn't quite that. He's quite small. He's more like Bernardo Silva. He's quite small, but he uses his body, his agility, his balance quite well for being small, which makes him hard to tackle off. So Joao Neves is 19 years of age. He can play as a 6, he can play as an 8, he can play as a 10. He's best as an 8 with a good number 6 alongside him. He's a very well-rounded player. He plays for Benfica, which is very possession-dominated side. Benfica plays some brilliant football. I watch a lot of Benfica. If we're linked to a lot of foreign players, a lot of them I have to do research on. Benfica is that one team that I have watched enough to kind of gauge a little bit about their players and what they're like, because I really enjoyed watching them. He's a good dribbler with great agility. He does remind me a bit of Bernardo Silva in just the sense of the way he composes himself with the ball. He's a good passer. What I like about him is he is hard to dispossess, and I think not only is he a good passer that can break the lines, that can switch the play, not only can he carry the ball forward as well, progress the ball, but when he's a passer, I think he's got good IQ passing. He knows when to make the right pass. He knows how to dictate a game. He knows how to progress the ball, and he does all of that stuff with ease. All the technical qualities that you would need in an elite player, all the technical qualities you'd want in an elite midfielder going forward, all these good qualities, someone like Joao Neves seems to possess. 5'8", he doesn't have that physical quality, but he's got those technical qualities. Doesn't have the athleticism that maybe United need in the squad, and that's something that I think is massively missing. But in terms of IQ, ability to play possession-based football, make the right passes, progress the ball, retain the ball, that is what you need. And I think, as a box-to-box player alongside a deeper playmaker or someone like Bruno Fernandes ahead of him, he can carry the ball, he can pass the ball out. I think he would be able to dictate games really well and cut out passing lines. And I think he could be a really good, intelligent player for Manchester United. The question mark is price. Benfica know they've got a gem on their hands. They know this Joao Neves is a fantastic player. And I think the big question mark with United signing a player like that would be the price tag. Would he be worth the price? Buy all at a later date when he's nearly 80. There's no long-term thinking involved here. Throat's gone. Look, I think someone like Joao Neves is good. I think he's someone that's a little bit of a risk to take on, but I think he's a good player and definitely something that we should keep an eye on this season, see how he develops for Benfica as well. But I do know that Ten Hag wants a physical number 8, and although we are looking at Palacios as well of Bayer Leverkusen that's having a good season as well. People saying Sir Jim's PR is too much. I don't even know if it's Sir Jim's PR, to be honest. I actually think it's the board. I think it's the owners or the board. I think it's United briefing the media, because the people bringing out information are all the United briefs. I think United are briefing their media and telling the media loads about Sir Jim Ratcliffe's bid and why it should be good, because they want to, I guess, create a positive vibe around it, because they know obviously this game's coming up. They don't want protests and all that as well. Guys, we're so close to our 300 like target. We've got 450 people watching. We need 78 more likes to hit the target. If you want a full sale, hit the like button. I really want to see if we can hit that like target. It would be much appreciated, because I do have a few interesting stories to get into. We've got quite a lot to talk about in today's show. There's been quite a lot of things going on at Manchester United, and you know what we're like at United. We're drama FC, we're busy FC. There's always something to talk about at this club, as boring as it can be sometimes as well. It was an interesting thing from Samuel Lutkers. Samuel Lutkers put out a report saying that actually, apparently, there was large support for Sheikh Yassim online, fueled by the prospect of Qatari riches, apparently, but Qatar were ill-informing people. It's interesting to see post-takeover, all these United journalists are saying stuff like, oh, you know what, Qatar were ill-informing people, the support online was misleading, and Jim's going to do this, Jim's going to do this, and it's all come from the owners. What's interesting is, guys, England are playing tonight, and it's Maguire and Calvin Phillips playing. Yes, they are. Do you know what? The one thing I'll give Maguire is, Maguire's played about 3 times more minutes than Calvin Phillips. So while people will slate Maguire for not playing enough and starting for England, at least Maguire has been good for England, whereas Calvin Phillips has been okay. But Maguire's had like 3-4 times more minutes than Calvin Phillips has. But I look at this, okay, the England lineup. I know it's completely off topic. Jordan Pickford, calm. I think Ramsdale Pope probably better, but Pickford's good for England. He's all right. Calm. Kyle Walker, yeah, you can play. Obviously, I do think that Reece James is our best right back, followed by Trippier. Trippier's going at left back because Luke Shaw's injured. There's nothing you can do. Stones, Maguire, fair enough. I think Colwill will eventually come in and replace Maguire. About Tomori, I've got question marks around him, but I've not said enough. Declan Rice and Jude Bellingham, fantastic. And then there's Calvin Phillips. What has Calvin Phillips done to get in that midfield? Do you know what? Call me crazy. I was thinking this the other day, and I almost tweeted it, and then I was like, no one will understand what I mean. But if Kobbie Mainoo reaches his potential and he can have a breakout season, he's what England need. England need a midfielder, because we're talking about people like James Ward-Prowse to come in and replace Calvin Phillips. Cool, good player, but not an amazing name. You've got Declan Rice, you've got Jude Bellingham, you've got 2 world-class midfielders, but then you need someone to play in between them. You need someone that's going to be an 8 that can play in the dual pivot with Declan Rice. Kobbie Mainoo could be that guy for England. And that sounds crazy because he's an academy player. He's not played a Premier League game. He's not really played for United yet this season. He's been injured. But I don't know if it's just me thinking that. But I was thinking Mainoo could be that guy. I was seriously thinking, yeah, you know what? Mainoo could be that guy. Mainoo could be big. And that was just my thought as well. But it's crazy. It's crazier that Calvin Phillips still plays as well. Ratcliffe and Qatar could have been better than this. There was rumours that Ratcliffe and Qatar were going to partner up, but I think they were just social media rumours with no real credibility as well. The journalists want access to the club, and that's why they're nice to the owners. Yeah, that's why they suck up to the owners and write what they want as well. I think a lot of the PR coming out is from journalists that want to be on the club's good side so they can get invited to this and that as well. All we got for Ten Hag is to get rid of these so-called big players and start the rest. We cannot be dreaming anymore. Our only hope is done. Now we've got to hope this clown does things properly. Interesting comment there as well. And Southgate uses his favourites. Mainoo future 8. I just think Mainoo has maybe it's just me, but I've always said this. I think Mainoo has a future with England. I think there's a there's a big and there's a special player in Kobe Maino, no doubt about it. But guys, I'm gonna wrap up the stream in about 1 second because my throat is absolutely going and it is 7 o'clock. So we have actually managed to do nearly a full stream. But I want to say I really want to hit 300 likes, so please do hit that like button. We've got worrying things about Mitchell van der Gaag potentially leaving Manchester United here as well. Hopefully that's not the case, but it was said breaking Mitchell van der Gaag is open to becoming the new Ajax manager. He's happy as assistant coach at Man United, but could be convinced at Ajax. This is obviously a story to keep an eye on. The last thing we want to do is lose someone like Mitchell van der Gaag. Very important, very essential, especially with the season being rocky, having ups and downs. The last thing we want to do is lose someone that could be important or potentially even crucial to the way that our rest of the season obviously does pan out. Anyway, please hit the like button. Of course, subscribe down below if you're new. Share the video. Thank you for watching. See you next time, and bye.